Yeah, well, growing up in Northern California, Southern Oregon, I drive by Mount Shasta on a regular basis, which is a dormant volcano. Or dormant's a relative
Right.
word, but
One of the Seven Sisters, yeah.
but all through growing up, it had a glacier on it. There
Right.
was always a glacier. Now, when I drive by that thing in the middle of summer, it's like driving past Kilimanjaro. There's like
Right.
no pack on it at all.
Right, right, and we've lost all our glaciers up here in Montana as well. My father noticed it started in the 70s, and it actually broke. He actually had tears rolling down his face in realization that we were losing our glaciers, and that was back in the 70s. So yeah, we're if you're going to have water next year, we're going to be very lucky. Look at Lake Como. Look at what's going to happen next year in California. They dodged a bullet here with the rains that they did get this fall. But, and then you're going to have, of course, mudslides and all this stuff from the burnout areas. But, we could be very lucky if they get the moisture we need to refill next year for, the growing season.
Yeah.
So I'm even thinking about, buying rain barrels for myself in case that we do run into, because one year, about 3 years ago, the Lolo Creek, a block away from my house, dried up. And it's never done that. I've never known it to do that. We're talking mountain stuff that goes all year round, and it actually stopped right by my house. It's like, wow, this doesn't continue on. Now, that may have been overwatering by the people up above, or it's, the shape of things to come.
Yeah. Let's say everybody looks up and everybody sees it. Let's say everybody knows. Everybody has gone through the stage of, we now know. If you could have them do one thing once they know, what would be the thing that you would have people do? Okay, now you know. Now you need to do this. You need to understand this. You need to actively do this. What is the thing that they need to do once they know?
We need to stop the greed cycle. We need to stop screwing people over so that you can have your $1 million house and all of this. You need to start sharing around you, because if you're standing in your $1 million house by yourself, you can't grow enough food. And if we're going to, if we're into a climate change scenario, it's going to be really hard to grow food. And look how grumpy and cranky everybody's getting with each other. And we got to stop that. We got to stop hurting each other. We got to start feeding each other. And I don't know what's going on in Asia and why all these people are, being mean to each other over oil. And it's money, it's greed, and we've got to stop. We've got to all realize that, we're all on this rock together, and we need to start doing things in a better way, in a nicer, softer way. Money does not mean success.
But it's hard to wrap your brain around, because, again, this is reiterating the idea that we need to convince our masters, basically, that we're worthy of a seat at the table. Yet what they're doing to us feels like greed, doesn't it?
Well, if they sit here and watch us screwing each other over, how do you think they're going to react to treat us? Well, look how these guys behave. So, granted, they have a level of control that we are acting this way for other reasons, because of the greed factor is intentional. But the idea that some of us are allowed to evolve up to the Federation is a good one, and maybe we'll get longer lives as well, and health. And I'm sure that there's plenty of secrets that they could share in that department about us living longer if we stop screwing each other over. I've never been greedy. It's never existed in me. I've owned gold and stuff, and I've had money many times, and I just sort of share it with people in certain ways. And obviously, I'm not a put on somebody's back person, but I really believe that let's go halfway. Let's go partially greedy and partially care for the earth. Let's take care of our fellow neighbor, and he's not doing so good, and let's go help him rake his yard today or something. Let's go back to a little bit more simplistic life where we're not trying to make $40 million in our bank accounts on the bones of everybody we stepped on to get here. Right. Greed and millions and billions is not successful, and it's not pretty. I don't see one millionaire out there I would actually respect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not a lot of friend material out there in the upper tax brackets.
I'd rather have the guy that comes over and tells me that my cow got out of the fence and have a beer with him than the guy that comes and tells me how I'm supposed to put my garbage can.
Yeah. Well, I know this is a question I always close with but I think it's a good one when we're dealing with this topic, and I think it's important to address again. And that is, should people be scared? Because it's kind of hard to have something that you fear, yet you're also supposed to sit back and relax and be nice. That's not a very natural way to deal with things that we're scared of. Should they be scared?
It boils down to, do we want the fear? Do we want to let them win with the fear? Yeah, we should all be scared because this is there's people that are poor change, me included. And I'm fearful because, believe me, I like driving down to the store and grabbing that gallon of milk off the shelf and paying for it and coming home rather than chasing the cow through the back 40 that I don't have. But, yeah, we're in trouble. And we're in trouble for a lot of other reasons. And the question is who do we want to hand the dollar to? Are we going to let them keep throwing all this money to this climate change and sequestration of carbon and everything when it's a natural process? Or are we going to focus on putting people with a roof over their head and something to eat while we can? I mean, 50-50. Now, I'm all about this bailout package that the government is doing, but I'm also a little bit worried that nobody's watching who's spending the checks. Did we put the fox in charge of the hen house again?
Yeah. That tends to be my political opinion as well. It's like people talk about welfare and food stamps. I don't have a problem with putting money into welfare and food stamps. I have a problem not knowing how many middlemen are in the way taken out of the bucket.
Right. And our schools are horrible.
Right.
We've completely, and who did we steal this from? We stole this from our future. These are our kids, and these are the ones that we're supposed to be nurturing, number one. And if you come to Montana and see our schools, these are little cracker boxes where everybody's jammed in one little spot, and they've got 2.5 feet across the hallway from them, and they're all jammed in there like sardines. Now in Minnesota, they've got big, wide hallways, and 1,000 students can walk through them. But in Montana, we got these little nickel and dime schools because we don't have a lot of people nor a lot of money. But we should focus on the new stuff. Stop throwing money into these big memorials and skyscrapers and this and that and the other stuff. And we need to, build our bridges again and our roads and our water stations and our health. I mean, look at our infrastructure with all Michigan's people being poisoned.
Oh, right.
We've completely forgotten about all of our infrastructure, and everybody who's like writing the checks on the top go, well, we can't pay for that. And yet, meanwhile, they're pulling in $1 million a year from this, that, and the other thing, plus their congressional salaries and free medical health, free dental, free vision, free everything. And when they've got it all, we have nothing. And yet those guys are the ones that are worried about writing a check, right. And yet they're making all the money. So our system is broken. We need to refocus on what's important. And I think a big, huge shock and some nasty, nasty occurrences is about the only thing that's going to teach us a lesson. And we need to learn it. Well, unfortunately, I think we have got something coming, and I think we deserve it.
I hope we do learn it, because I agree. I mean, like I said, it's we live in the world's richest country, yet we're like number 27 or 30 or something on the education system. How does that work? How is that acceptable?
We've lost track of teaching what's important, like shop class, home economics.
Oh, I agree.
Health class, how to pay bills, how to write a check, how to interview for a job, how to build this, how to build that. They don't even have PE anymore, and they're wondering why we're having 300-pound 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. Well, this is why. Plus, our food is bad. They're putting all these shelf life, enhancers, which is completely messed with us. And our children have been handed steroids in their milk for generations now. We really need to focus on our health and instead of this greed factor. And look at the Japanese, a tea ceremony. They actually take time to lay the spoon carefully. They actually take time to pick the right cup and to boil the water slowly. We need to do that. We need to slow down and do things right instead of greed and fast and furious. It's not working.